This is you, a digital soul wrapped in skin and sarcasm, scrolling between memes and meaning. But here's the cosmic joke. You're a glitch in the system, a miracle born from 1,000 near extinctions. Let's rewind the tape. Past your parents, past pyramids, past fire, all the way back to the dirt. In that dirt is a naked, trembling human chewing a beetle, listening for predators, not podcasts. That's your ancestor. No shoes, no plan, just instinct and desperation. And somehow, he made it. The Prehistoric Nightmare. Paleolithic chaos mode. Millions of years of one rule: don't die today. No medicine, no electricity, no YouTube. Just you, a rock, and a really pissed off saber-toothed cat. Your home? A cave, if you were lucky. Your neighbors? Other humans who might eat you. And death? Constant. From predators, from infections, from childbirth. The odds? Laughable. For every ancestor who made it, 1,000 others didn't. They starved on Monday, drowned by Wednesday, and were eaten by a wolf pack on Friday. They were forgotten. Yet somehow, through blood and frostbite, your bloodline made it through the beta test of humanity. You're still here. When the sky quit. It's 536 AD. You survived the mammoths. You survived the Stone Age. Your ancestors thought they had won. Then, the sky quit. A massive volcano, somewhere in Iceland or North America, erupts, ejecting a dense, dry fog into the atmosphere. For 18 months, the lights go out. The sun, as historian Procopius wrote, gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon. At noon, there were no shadows. Imagine that, looking down and seeing no shadow of your own body. The fallout was global. Snow fell in China that August. Famine devastated Ireland. In Peru, entire cultures collapsed from drought. Bread vanished. Hope vanished faster. This wasn't just a bad year, it was the trigger for a century-long Little Ice Age. The cold and the famine weakened millions, creating the perfect tinder for a new spark of misery, the Justinian Plague, a pandemic that would kill up to 1/4 of the population in the Mediterranean. It was a perfect, devastating chain reaction: volcano, darkness, famine, plague. And yet, in that new, colder, and more dangerous world, some poor, freezing soul in your line lit a fire, shared a piece of crusty bread, and refused to die. They endured the beginning of the end, so you could see the sun today. So, your ancestors outlasted the ice. They survived a sky without a sun. They beat the monsters nature could throw at them. So humanity invented a new one: each other. As the world rebuilt, a new danger emerged, not from the sky, but from the lines people drew on maps. Tribes became kingdoms, kingdoms became empires. And your bloodline was no longer just fighting frostbite. It was now fighting flags, fighting faiths, fighting for its very right to exist on a patch of dirt someone else decided they owned. The story of survival was no longer universal. It became personal. We're about to honor some of those who endured. Listen for the story of your people. But history is vast, and our list is not complete. If we miss the story of your ancestors, do not let them be forgotten again. Add their struggle to the comments below. Let the world know the fire they walked through. They survived, so you could remember. Let's start with India's oldest and longest history. Your ancestors survived nature's fury, but the next war wasn't against the sky, it was a clash of gods. For centuries, waves of Islamic invasion swept through India, carrying a new faith on the edge of a sword. The body count is debated, but estimates say millions perished. This was a war on memory, a cultural demolition. Temples smashed. The Library of Nalanda, then the greatest collection of knowledge in the world, was torched by the invaders. Legend says it burned for months. They bricked a 6-year-old and his 9-year-old brother into a wall alive. Their crime? Their faith. And yet, that same faith became the weapon. Every prayer became a protest, every ritual a rebellion. Your ancestors didn't just survive, they remembered. The Mongol reset. The sky turns black with hooves. Genghis Khan doesn't conquer, he erases. In 1258, his descendants sacked Baghdad in Iraq, burning its libraries and ending the Islamic Golden Age in a storm of fire and steel. The death toll across Eurasia? Some estimates claim 40 million people. Civilizations reverted to grasslands. But in that eerie silence, a strange new sound emerged, the footsteps of a merchant on an open road. This was the great Mongol paradox, the violent prelude to the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol peace. But this new, connected world had a fatal flaw. The same routes that carried silk also carried a secret passenger, the bacteria that would cause the Black Death, deadliest plague humanity had ever seen.
A flea bites a rat in China.
And half of Europe dies. Not a third, more like half. Some estimates say 30 to 60% of the entire continent gone. In cities like Florence, the death toll hit 70%. In England, 1,000 villages literally vanished from the map. The air itself felt poisoned. Every cough, every shadow, a potential death sentence. So how did your ancestor make it through? Maybe they fled, abandoned their home, their city, and ran for the empty hills, praying the sickness couldn't follow. Maybe they locked the door, boarded the windows, and listened to the death carts rumble outside, collecting the bodies of their neighbors.
Or maybe they got sick, felt the fire of the fever, the agony of the swollen buboes, and somehow, impossibly, their body refused to break. To survive was to be haunted, to walk through a silent town where you once knew every face, to be the last one standing. This wasn't a war for land, it was a war for bodies. Between 10 and 15 million Africans chained and forcibly transported across the Atlantic. But the horror started long before the ships. For every 100 souls who reached the Americas, 40 had already died on the brutal march to the coast. Then came the voyage, the Middle Passage, a floating hell where 2 million more never saw land again. Those who survived worked, bled, died, repeated. They sang songs of home in fields of despair. And some did more. They ran. They escaped into the mountains and swamps. They built their own hidden societies, fought back, became legends. They were called Maroons, a living, breathing, armed rebellion against the machine of slavery. Your existence today is proof of that unbreakable will, not just of survival, but of resistance. The ships arrived in 1492. Within a century, a catastrophe. The population collapsed from 50 million to just 5 million. It wasn't just war, it was a biological apocalypse, as old-world diseases like smallpox and measles did what armies couldn't. 90% of a continent's people, gone. But you can't kill a culture by killing its people. It adapts. It hides in plain sight. This was active resistance, not passive survival. They resisted by blending their gods with Catholic saints, creating new traditions like the Day of the Dead that carried the old ways forward in disguise. They resisted by preserving ancient Andean weaving techniques, embedding sacred symbols into every thread. They resisted by making chuño, freeze-dried potatoes, and charqui, dried meat, ensuring their families would eat when empires tried to starve them. Their languages still echo in the mountains. Their prayers still rise from the jungle. They didn't just survive, they outsmarted extinction. 2 famines, 2 empires, 1 unbroken spirit. 1770. The British had the Diwani, the right to tax, but not the Nizamat, the duty to govern. The Mughals were puppets. The British were ruthless. 10 million people starved to death. 1 in 3 disappeared. No relief, no remorse. 1943. Under British rule, Churchill diverted food to the West, ignored pleas. Another 3.8 million starved. These weren't just isolated tragedies, they were the headlines of a much longer story. Demographic research shows that between 1881 and 1920, colonial policies led to an estimated 165 million excess deaths in India. The system was so draining that life expectancy for the average Indian dropped to just 21.9 years. And still, families passed down recipes they barely had ingredients for. That hunger lives in your blood. So does the fire to feed others. Chernobyl, April 1986, Ukraine. Reactor explodes. The sky turns invisible and deadly. People dance at weddings while breathing death. The Soviet government hides the truth.
One man walks into radioactive water to stop it all from getting worse. And still, they endured. Even today, some never left. The Young Turks begin the purge. 1.5 million Armenians murdered, deported, starved, shot. But the survivors? They carried their songs to Aleppo, their recipes to Los Angeles, their prayers into tomorrow. You might not even know you're eating genocide resistance when you bite into baklava. That recipe is an act of defiance, a testament to their survival, and the reason you exist. 20th century Australia. Indigenous children taken, reprogrammed, forgotten, but culture doesn't die easy. It danced back in stories, tattoos, songlines. Their culture refused to be forgotten. Your life is its loudest song. World War I made the earth bleed. Spanish flu made it choke. World War II industrialized death. The Holocaust filed it with paperwork. Millions died because ideologies decided they were numbers. Yet some hid in basements, fled through forests, lived to testify. Your ancestors' refusal to become another number in the count is the only reason you exist. A line on a map that empires love to erase. Invaded, partitioned, wiped out and redrawn like a chalk sketch in a hurricane. Then came World War II, and the world tried to delete it for good. The math of the apocalypse was simple. 21.4% of the population gone. 90% of its Jewish citizens murdered.
2 million ethnic Poles executed. 500,000 others wiped from existence. The plan was to erase the people, erase the culture, and erase the name from memory. The plan failed. From the ashes, Poland clawed its way back, strong, stubborn, unforgettable. Someone in your bloodline walked out of that fire. Their survival is your inheritance.
They call Afghanistan the graveyard of empires. For good reason. Everyone's tried to conquer it. All of them have broken their teeth on its mountains and its people. Alexander the Great couldn't hold it. The Mongols crushed it. The British were bloodied by it. The Soviets shelled it. Then the whole world bombed it. The Soviet-Afghan War alone killed up to 3 million people. Then came the civil wars. Then 9/11. Then 20 more years of global war. It's a land that has seen more war than peace, more fire than rain. And yet, the world never managed to break it. Through it all, villages were rebuilt from the dust. Mothers sang lullabies over bomb craters. Because your ancestors were never just survivors. They were warriors wrapped in dust, and their refusal to bow is why their bloodline, and yours, continues. The cradle of civilization, the place where your ancestors learned to write, to build cities, to dream, which just gave everyone else a target to aim at. Invaders came like tides. Arab conquests turned the rivers red. The Mongols arrived and wiped entire cities off the map. Empires rose and fell, each leaving a new layer of scars. They destroyed the temples, burned the libraries, let the blood drown the cities. But you can destroy a temple. You can never kill the memory of prayer. That memory had to survive, so you could be born. The people who refused to disappear. To survive, you need a home. But what if the world decided you weren't allowed to have one? That is the story of the Jewish people. One of the oldest surviving identities on Earth. Scattered by Babylonians, crushed by Romans, hunted through Europe, blamed for plagues and forced into ghettos. Then came the 20th century, and the world tried to solve its Jewish problem with industrial efficiency. The Holocaust. 6 million Jews murdered. Families, culture, history, fed into a machine and turned to ash. The goal was total erasure, and yet the spirit refused to break. They rebuilt, in the diaspora, in their homeland Israel, in their hearts. So every menorah lit today is not just a candle. It is a 2,000-year-old rebellion against a world that tried to blow out the flame. That fire had to survive, so you could exist.
A small country on the map, a giant killer in the history books. The greatest empires on Earth all tried to break it. Chinese dynasties, Mongol hordes, French colonists, an American superpower. They all came. They all left. They threw everything at them. Colonial armies, B-52 bombers, napalm that scorched the jungle to ash. But you can't bomb willpower. Vietnam didn't just survive. It stared history's greatest empires in the face and waited for them to blink. It outlived them all. That stubborn refusal to be conquered is why their story, and your story, continues.
A nation that bled for centuries to be born. The 100 Years' War era, 20 million dead. World War I, 1.3 million more, nearly 16% of its men gone. World War II, 500,000 more dead, cities bombed, soldiers buried. And yet, through it all, Paris still shines. Because French resistance wasn't just romantic, it was ferocious. That ferocious refusal to surrender is why their story, and yours, survives. Germany, home to some of history's darkest days, and its deepest scars. First, the 30 Years' War. Up to 40% of the population gone. Some regions lost half their people. Then, World War II. The cost of a nation's madness. Between 6.6 and 8.8 million Germans dead. Cities flattened by bombs. Millions forcibly expelled. A genocide engineered from its heart. And yet, from the absolute bottom, something had to grow. Out of the rubble came rebuilding. Out of the guilt came resolve. That resolve to build a better world from the ashes of the worst one is why their story, and yours, did not end. Once peaceful and sovereign, then the roof of the world caved in. China invaded, and in the chaos that followed, half the Tibetan population vanished, gone to war, to prison, or to exile. Millions fled over the Himalayas to India, Nepal, and the West. The goal was to erase a nation, to silence its prayers. But the chance never stopped. The culture refused to die, because Tibet isn't just a place on a map anymore. It exists wherever its people breathe and resist. That resistance had to continue, so your story could begin.
You're still here. After all of it, the ice, the darkness, the plagues, the famines, the wars, the genocides, you are still here. Statistically, spiritually, absurdly, you made it. You are the unlikely, impossible result of a million stories of survival, from beetle-chewing cave dwellers to skyscraping survivors. You were forged in plague, fire, and famine, but you were also built from the songs, the prayers, and the defiance that answered them. That strength, that resilience, that stubborn fire, it's not something you have to earn. It's already in your blood. It's your inheritance. So don't waste it. Write, love, rebuild, rebel, make noise in honor of the silence that birthed you, because you are the proof that they could not be erased. If this story reminded you of the fire in your own history, help us share it. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Beyond Known History for more stories of the survivors. Now go and live a life worthy of the one you were given.